Hi, welcome to my channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Joanna. If you're anything like me, you've got endless libraries on your computer, on your phone, on your tablet, filled with the most amazing pictures of the most aspirational freehand art that you'd seen on miniatures. I used to scroll and collect all of these images thinking, wow, I could never in a million years, or there's no way, or I'm not an artist. These people are real artists. Well, I'm here to tell you that you actually can do this. I did it, and I'm going to show you how. This is part 1 of a 4-part series. I painted this knight that was gifted to me by a friend a while ago, 4 years ago to be exact. I got so excited and I assembled all the pieces, and then I gave it even a base prime. But then I froze. I didn't know where to go next. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what the images were that I wanted to paint. I even sketched them out on my iPad. But I got paralyzed with fear. I didn't know how to get to the next step. And it took me 4 years to get there. 2 moves across the ocean, and a lot of dust collecting on this mini. Then one day I realized it was time to let go of my fear. I'd practiced enough on a lot of smaller projects. I knew I could do this. It was time. Future videos will focus on roses, wings and feathers, NMM, a female portrait, and finally all of the finishing bits like scrolls, banners, and basing. All of this is done in an Art Nouveau style, which was my main focus for this piece. First of all, I know you're scared. I was too. I want you to come away with a few key lessons before you ever put your brush into any paint. Number 1, it's just paint. No one is going to get hurt if you make a mistake. Your mini will not yell at you the way Google does when you miss a turn. Number 2, you are your own worst critic. You are always going to be most critical about your own work. But in reality, everybody else who sees it is going to be completely impressed. If anything, they're just going to be jealous that you had the courage to even start. Number 3, mistakes will happen. You're a human being. Mistakes can be fixed. Changes can be made. If all else fails, you just have to reprime and start again. No one will ever know unless you're filming and putting it on the internet, like I did. But you will see me make mistakes, and I will show you how I fix them. Lesson number 4, have fun. I cannot stress this enough. Start simple. This does not have to be your magnum opus from the beginning. Choose the subject matter that you love most. Choose an art style that you love most. And this is so important. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. You are on your own journey. We all start at different places. You will get there. You just got to keep painting. It's okay to look for inspiration, and it's okay to copy. But remember that you have your own hands, your own eyes, and in the end, your work of art will be a piece of you, and it's going to be unique to you. Start with a plan. Some things in life are better left to spontaneity, like shopping. Others are better served by planning it out in advance. This will help you to break up an overwhelming project into smaller, manageable pieces. I used Procreate on my iPad to draw out some quick sketches. As you can see, I am not a fantastic artist. I should have done a sketch including posing and basing all together, but next time. My original plan was to use a dark teal blue background to match my Sisters of Battle army. Later, I decided to change it to green. Why? I don't know, because I wanted to. I used an airbrush for all of this work, but I didn't film any of it because it was a long time ago. In hindsight, though, I could have used the original blue for everything, and it would have looked just as good. Next, I collected all of my references and printed them out on paper. I'm old-fashioned that way. For this project, I used references for skulls, faces, feathers, and wings. I also found images of shiny gold jewelry in an Art Nouveau style, Art Nouveau borders and elements, and of course roses. Now I'm ready to paint. Hold on a second. I can barely see what I'm doing. Let me try to fix that. All right, now we're cooking. So a few things you need to consider when you start to do your freehand. And the first one is make sure you thin your paints down quite a bit. Now we're not going for a glaze consistency. They don't have to be transparent. But when you use really thin paint on your brush, you can go longer without having to reload. So you can do longer strokes without interruption. What I like to use for diluting my paints is a 50-50 mix of water and paint retarder from Liquitex. I also keep a well of this on my wet palette using one of those kids' toy poppers. They're made out of silicone, easy to clean, and they're small and fit right inside my palette. I can close my palette all the way. It fits no problem. What you'll notice is that I'm painting over a white line that I've already laid down onto my armor panel. This was done with a chalk pencil. It's a gray chalk pencil that I purchased online, I think maybe Michael's, who knows. It's been a long time. But the wonderful thing about using a chalk pencil to put down your initial sketch onto your panels is that it can be erased really easily if there's any leftover marks after you've added your paint. You can also make adjustments to your original design. So if you don't like originally what you put down, you can change it right now, and it's totally fine because you can erase the pencil that's left behind. If you don't have a chalk pencil, you can use a regular pencil. A graphite pencil with a soft lead is perfect for this. I recommend a light chalk pencil for darker backgrounds because you can see it better. If you're working on a lighter background, a graphite pencil with a very soft lead is also really easy to see and read and does a really great job. And you can erase it just like you would the chalk. Now at this point, I'm just loosely sketching in each of my elements with the colors I plan on using. This helps me to make sure my composition is balanced throughout the entire mini, that I have the negative spaces that I want, and that each of the elements are where I want them, and I'm using the colors that I want in the end. I do save this female portrait for the very last thing that I do. I don't even sketch it in at this point. For me, it was the most intimidating part of the project, and I wanted to save it for the very end, build my confidence with things I knew I could manage first. While I'm sketching things out, I'm making sure that I'm taking my images over the edges of anything that I think I might paint out in a metallic later. This helps to create the illusion that the image goes beyond the edge of where you actually stop. When you're painting or drawing anything on a surface and you come to a hard edge where you want to stop, go beyond that. It helps your eye to automatically fill in the idea that that image doesn't stop right there, you didn't stop right there, that it carries beyond that border. Okay, so what brushes am I using today? I'm using two different brushes. I'm using a Winsor Newton size 2 and a Da Vinci size 2. Now, the numbers say that they're both size 2s, but the brands will always vary in sizes. So, for example, the Winsor Newton size 2 is a larger brush. In this frame, you see me using a Da Vinci size 2. The Da Vinci size 2 is comparable to a Winsor Newton size 1. I like to use the smaller brush for very fine details, but most of the time I'm usually using a Winsor Newton size 2 for almost everything else. I do use Sable Kolinsky hair brushes because they always have a finer tip and they just work better. Now you may be asking, do I have to use a Sable hair brush? No, you can use a synthetic. You can use whatever you like most. I recommend you use a Sable hair brush. They do hold a tip much better, especially for very fine detail work. But if you're working in a larger area with larger designs and you're just getting background colors down, then a synthetic brush will do you just fine for that job. I do use acrylic inks for this step because they just flow off of the brush so much more easily. Here I'm painting in the rays for the crown on the main body panel. You'll notice that some of them just don't seem to point directly towards the center of the crown. I'll end up fixing that later. I also go ahead and color block in a lot of the gold elements and then cut in a basic shadow to help me see where the different components of each gold element is, and helps me to map out where my shadows and then later highlights will be placed. Now for straight lines, you'll notice that I'm only using movement for about 2 to 3 knuckles worth of finger length. I've got myself anchored in at least 3 points. Both of my arms are resting on the table and I've got one pinky resting on the mini. And as I draw my line, I am pulling my brush straight towards my wrist, not my body, but my wrist. And this will help you give the most control for your brush stroke and help you execute a straight line. As far as paint colors go, I don't believe in recipes. Here's a group picture of all the paints that I've used. As you can tell, I am not a paint monogamist. For me, paint brand isn't necessarily important. What is the color and the quality of the paint that you use. So use what works best for you, the ones that you like most, or the ones you just have on hand. There's no need to go shopping for new paints if you already have an equivalent color in your library. So when I originally drew in my first brush strokes to lay out my plan, I did notice later that my rays for my crown were not pointed straight towards the center of the crown with the center of the circle drawn there. So all I'm doing is this time going in and color blocking out with the yellow that I'm using for my gold. And I'm ignoring the original lines that I had laid down. And I'm just painting in the correct lines that I want to have for my gold rays. Now circles can be very tricky. If the circle is off even by a little bit, your brain will notice it. But here's my trick to circles. If you're not using a compass or a stencil, the best way to approach a circle is to have it over a element that breaks it up. So for example, this circular crown is going behind a skull. It's already broken up. It's going across this little window. There's another break. When there's breaks in a circle, your brain is less likely to notice any discrepancy in the shape of that circle. For skulls, I like to block them in solid first and then cut in the negative spaces like eyes and nose holes. A lot of people like to automatically put in their negative spaces first time round. Me, I just block in the solid shape and then I work in those negative spaces later. Each of these coats of white that I'm putting down is quite thin. You can see that they're kind of splotchy. And it'll usually take about 2 coats to get a solid enough color. At this point, I'm not worrying about solid coverage because I know that as I continue to work in shadows and highlights for each of these skulls, all of that blotchiness will disappear. Here you see me doing exactly that, sketching in each of the negative spaces for each of the skulls. I'm also refining shapes as I go. I continue to work back and forth between skulls and crowns at this point, making any changes I need to for shapes to make sure that everything is symmetrical and looking the way it should be. This skull on the main panel is looking a little chibi, Don't worry, that will get fixed later as I continue to work in the different shapes and elements. As I work in the shadows and highlights for each of the skulls, you'll notice that I'm using a variety of colors, not just black, whites, and grays. I am using a variety of blues, pinks, and purples. One of the reference images I pulled off of the internet to help me choose my designs included a skull that used all of these colors for its shadows. And I thought it was a really fun variation on the traditional black and white skull. I'm also cutting in around the edges of this skull with the original base color that I used on the backgrounds to help clean up the edges and redefine the shapes as I go. I do, of course, use black to draw in any of the lines that define things like teeth or cracks on the surface of the skull for maximum contrast. Also notice that some of the highlights that I've placed in the skull actually are inside the eye sockets. The eye sockets of a skull are not 100% black. They are not just voids that go into nowhere. There's bone inside of the eye socket, so make sure you add highlights inside of there to show that there is depth inside of the skull and there's still bone reaching deep inside that cavity. This leg panel with the pile of skulls was looking a little plain to me, so I decided to carry through the rose vine theme from the skulls on the other panels to follow that rule of three. Rule of three, if you're not familiar, is the idea that our brains like odd numbers, and if you're going to repeat something, always repeat it 3 times. I also didn't like the way the grill was on the very bottom edge of one of those skulls, and so I knew that this would be a great way to help hide and mask that particular element for this panel, and it also brings some of the red down into this corner of the full composition. Congrats for making it to the end. I'm glad you stuck it out. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot to cover. In our next video, we're going to go over roses and leaves. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe and trigger your notification bell so that when it drops, you're there to see it. Thanks so much for watching. Now go and paint. Bye.